Melody Harrison stood at the iron gates of Moonvale Manor with her small suitcase in one hand and the deed to the property in the other. She could not believe this massive old house now belonged to her. The stone walls rose up like mountains, and the towers seemed to scrape the clouds. The lawyer had called last month to tell her about a distant relative she never knew, who left her everything. The gravel path crunched under her feet as she walked toward the main doors. Wind moved through, the trees making sounds like whispers. Melody was used to her small apartment in the city where she worked on her science projects. This was very different. The large wooden doors opened before she could knock. Two women stood there, both with the same face, same height, and same pale blonde hair. They wore simple black dresses with white aprons. "We have been waiting for you." Miss Harrison, the one on the left, said, her voice soft like music. "We are your staff." The other added. Melody blinked in surprise. She did not know the house came with maids. "My name is Laurel," the first one said with a small bow. "And I am Ivy," her sister added. The twins moved in perfect harmony as they took Melody's bag and guided her inside. The main hall was huge, with a ceiling that seemed miles high. Old paintings covered the walls showing people who must be her ancestors. They all had the same dark red hair and green eyes that Melody saw in her mirror every morning. "We have prepared the master bedroom for you," Laurel said. "The house has been in your family for many generations," Ivy continued, as if they shared one mind, one thought. Melody followed them up the wide staircase, trying to understand how she now owned all this. Her work as an astrophysicist studying wormholes and space never paid much. Her tiny apartment barely fit her books and equipment. Now she had a mansion. The twins showed her to a bedroom bigger than her entire apartment. The bed could fit 5 people. A fireplace took up one wall already lit, and warm, thick rugs covered the floor, and heavy curtains framed windows taller than doors. "Dinner will be ready in 1 hour," Laurel said. "We will come get you." Then Ivy finished. When they left, Melody sat on the bed, feeling small in the big room. Something about the twins made her skin tingle. They were too perfect, too smooth in how they moved. Their ears seemed a bit pointed at the tops, but maybe that was just how the light hit them. After washing up, Melody decided to explore. She opened a door expecting a closet, but found a small study instead. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with old leather books. A desk sat in the middle, covered with papers and strange tools. She picked up one book and found it written in a language she did not know. The symbols looked like nothing from Earth. The sound of soft footsteps made her turn. The twins stood in the doorway, watching her with eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. "Dinner is ready," Miss Harrison, Laurel said. "We hope you like roast duck and potatoes," Ivy added. The dining room had a table long enough for 20 people. Melody sat at one end while the twins served food that smelled amazing. The duck tasted better than any food she ever had. The wine made her feel warm and relaxed. "Do you two live here all the time?" she asked after her second glass. "We are bound to the house," Laurel answered. "As our mothers were before us," Ivy said. "How long has my family owned this place?" Melody asked. "The house has stood for 700 years, Laurel said. "Your family has been here for most of that time." Ivy added. Melody felt strange hearing this. She knew nothing about her family history. Her parents died when she was young. She grew up in foster homes, never knowing her roots. Now these twins seemed to know more about her family than she did. After dinner, Melody asked to see more of the house. The twins showed her room after room, each filled with old furniture and stranger things. A music room had instruments she did not recognize. A small room held only maps on the walls, but the continents looked wrong, with shapes that did not match any Earth geography she knew. In the basement, they showed her a large, empty room with stone walls and floor. "This would make a good laboratory," Laurel suggested. "We know. You are a scientist," Ivy said. "We can help you move your equipment here." "How do you know what I do?" Melody asked, feeling uneasy. "We know all about the Harrison family," Laurel answered. "It is our duty to serve and protect," Ivy said, but did not explain what they needed to protect. That night, Melody could not sleep. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet compared to city noise. She got up and went to the window, looking at the strange woods beyond the garden. The trees seemed to glow faintly with blue, light that could not be natural. She decided to set up her lab in that basement room. It would give her something normal to focus on. Her work on dimensional physics and wormhole theory needed space anyway. Her tiny apartment never had enough room for all her equipment. The next few weeks passed in a blur. The twins helped her move all her science equipment from the city. They never seemed surprised by the strange machines or complex computer systems. They worked without complaint, carrying things that should be too heavy for their slim bodies. Melody noticed other strange things too. Food never ran out in the kitchen. The twins never seemed to sleep. She would work late in her new lab, come up at 3 in the morning and find them cleaning or cooking. The house never got dusty. Flowers never wilted. The twins always knew where she was without looking. One night Melody worked later than usual. Her newest experiment created tiny tears in space, trying to prove her theory about dimensional bridges. She watched through special glasses as small rips formed in the air, showing glimpses of somewhere else. Somewhere with purple skies and strange crystal towers, a crash from upstairs made her jump. She turned off her equipment and went to investigate. The sound came from her bedroom. The door was open, but the lights were off. She could see movement in the shadows. Stepping into the room, Melody saw the twins standing by her bed. Their eyes glowed bright blue in the darkness. They stared at something on the floor. Something that moved and made scratching sounds. "What are you doing in my room?" Melody asked. The twins turned toward her, something changing in their faces. Their skin seemed to shimmer. Their ears now clearly pointed and longer than human ears should be. "We felt the hatching," Laurel said, her voice different, deeper. "The guardian wakes." Ivy added. Melody looked down and saw what they watched. A small creature the size of a cat, with shining scales and tiny wings. It looked up at her with eyes that glowed like stars. Its scales changed colors as it moved from deep blue to purple to colors she had no names for. "It is bonding to you," Laurel said. "You have awakened it with your experiments." Ivy explained. "The barrier between worlds grows thin." The small dragon creature made a sound like bells ringing. It moved toward Melody, wrapping its long tail around her ankle. Wings fluttered as it climbed up her leg to her waist. "What is happening?" Melody asked, feeling afraid but also strangely calm. "You are not who you think you are," Laurel said, stepping closer. Her maid uniform seemed to melt away, replaced by something like armor made of silver and blue metal that flowed like water. "Your experiments were not accidents." Ivy continued, also changing. Her simple clothes transformed into the same strange armor. "You are remembering skills your ancestors knew." The dragon reached Melody's shoulder. Its small head nuzzled against her cheek. Its body felt warm like a heating pad. The twins watched, with serious faces. "The enemy knows you are here now," Laurel said. "The dimensional tear was detected. You must learn quickly," Ivy added. "The war never ended. It just moved to new battlegrounds." Melody stood frozen as the small dragon purred against her neck. The comfortable world she thought she knew crumbled around her. The strange house, the mysterious twins, the dragon on her shoulder. Nothing made sense anymore. Yet deep inside, something clicked into place, like she finally found a puzzle piece she never knew was missing. "They will come for you soon," Laurel warned. "Tonight everything changes. You must be ready," Ivy said. "The dragon will help protect you." The small creature made a sound like singing. Its wings spread out, showing patterns like star maps. Melody recognized constellations that should not exist on Earth. The twins bowed their heads to the dragon with respect. "Tonight you found your true self," Laurel said. "Tomorrow you begin your real work," Ivy finished. Morning light filtered through the curtains as Melody opened her eyes. She reached up to touch her shoulder, half expecting the dragon to be gone. A strange dream from a stressful night, but her fingers met warm scales. The small creature curled around her neck like a living scarf, its tail wrapped gently around her arm. Melody sat up slowly. The dragon lifted its head and made a sound like tiny bells. Its eyes were deep pools of starlight changing colors as it looked at her. The events of last night crushed back the twins in her room. Their transformation. The warnings about enemies coming. A soft knock at the door made both Melody and the dragon turn. Laurel and Ivy entered wearing their normal maid uniforms again, as if nothing unusual had happened. The only difference was the silver bracelets they now wore openly around their wrists. "He has bonded well with you," Laurel said. Looking at the dragon, Ivy corrected. "She has chosen you as her companion." The dragon made that bell sound again, seeming to agree. Melody watched as the small creature spread its wings, revealing patterns that looked like star maps. "What is she?" Melody asked, touching the dragon's head gently. "She is a breach guardian," Laurel explained. "A being created to sense and control dimensional tiers. Your ancestors brought her egg here centuries ago," Ivy continued. When they fled, the war Melody tried to process this information. The twins spoke of her ancestors as if they were not human, as if they came from somewhere else through a dimensional breach like the ones she studied. "Come," Laurel said. "We must begin your training. There is little time." Ivy added. Breakfast waited on the dining table. Fresh fruit, strange berries. Melody had never seen bread that seemed to glow slightly, with inner light. The twins stood nearby watching as Melody ate. The dragon remained on her shoulder, occasionally taking small pieces of fruit that Melody offered. "Your experiments in the basement," Laurel began. "You were trying to create stable wormholes between dimensions. How did you know that?" Melody asked. Her research was supposed to be secret. Even her colleagues at the university did not know exactly what she worked on, because it is in your blood. Ivy answered. "Your family has always known how to create such bridges. Your ancestors were not from this world." Laurel continued. "They were scientists like you. They fled here during the Great War." Ivy explained. "They hid among humans, taking your form." Melody nearly choked on her food. The twins spoke, so casually, about something impossible. Something that changed everything. She thought she knew about herself. After breakfast, they led her to the basement lab. The equipment she had set up looked primitive next to what the twins unveiled. A wall slid away, revealing technology that could not exist on Earth. Crystalline structures that floated without support. Metal that flowed like water screens that appeared in midair without projectors. "This is your heritage," Laurel said, touching one of the crystals. It glowed brighter. Responding to her, "Your ancestors were dimensional architects," Ivy explained. "They built the pathways between worlds." The dragon leapt from Melody's shoulder, landing on a central platform. That platform began to glow. The entire room hummed with energy. Lights appeared floating in the air, showing maps of places Melody had never seen. Worlds with purple skies, multiple moons, crystal cities. "This is the dimensional nexus," Laurel said. "The control center your ancestors built. From here, they monitored the breaches," Ivy continued, "until the enemy found them." Melody walked slowly around the room, touching the strange technology. It felt familiar somehow, as if she had used it before in a dream or another life. The dragon watched her, making soft sounds of encouragement. "Who is this enemy you keep mentioning?" Melody finally asked. "The Void Court." Laurel answered, her face growing dark. "They seek to control all dimensions," Ivy explained, "to drain them of energy." The twins touched their silver bracelets. At once the bracelets flowed like liquid, transforming into curved blades that glowed with inner light. "We are wardens," Laurel said, holding her blade. "We protect the boundaries between worlds. Your family gave us sanctuary when our world fell." Ivy added, "We have served the Harrison line ever since." The dragon suddenly hissed. Its scales darkened from shimmering blue to deep black. Its eyes glowed brighter. The twins tensed, hands tightening on their weapons. "They have found us," Laurel whispered. "The breach detector is activated," Ivy explained, looking at one of the floating screens. Melody felt cold fear wash over her. The dragon leapt back to her shoulder, wrapping its tail protectively around her neck. The twins moved to stand on either side of her, their blades ready, We need to prepare you, Laurel said urgently. You must learn to control your abilities. Ivy added, What abilities? Melody asked, confused. The twins exchanged looks. Then Laurel reached out, touching Melody's forehead. Remember, she said softly. Images flooded Melody's mind. Places she had never been. People with pointed ears and glowing eyes. Buildings that defied gravity. Ships that sailed between stars. Knowledge of science far beyond Earth technology. Equations that could tear reality and rebuild it. Melody gasped, stumbling backward. The dragon made soothing sounds nuzzling her cheek. The knowledge settled in her mind, feeling right. Feeling true, you are Elven, Laurel said. Your ancestors were high elves from the Crystal Court, the most talented dimensional architects of our world, Ivy added. They created the network that connects all realities. Melody looked at her hands. They seemed the same, yet she felt different. The dragon purred against her skin, its scales now matching the color of Melody's hair, the deep red that marked her as different. All her life we have 3 days before they can pinpoint this location, Laurel said, looking at the floating screens. We must awaken your abilities and strengthen the Guardian before. Then Ivy continued. The next days passed in a blur of training and preparation. The twins taught Melody how to access the knowledge buried in her mind, how to use the ancient technology, how to connect with the dragon who they called Ember. Ember grew, rapidly doubling in size each day. By the 3rd day she was as large as a big dog, her wings spanning several feet, her scales shifting through colors as she moved. By night she curled around Melody as they slept. By day she learned to fly in the large basement chamber. Melody discovered she could see energy fields around living things. She could feel the dimensional barriers like thin fabric. She could touch them with her mind, making them stronger or weaker. The equations she had been working on her entire career suddenly made perfect sense. They were not theoretical. They were practical tools for manipulating reality. The twins revealed more of their own abilities, moving faster than human eyes could follow. Speaking mind to mind with Melody and Ember, creating shields of pure energy. Healing wounds with a touch. They are coming, Laurel announced on the evening of the 3rd day. We can feel them tearing through the outer barriers, Ivy added. Melody stood in the basement nexus room. Ember, now the size of a pony, stood beside her. The dragon had developed a ridge of spines along her back that glowed with energy. The twins wore their full armor, now silver plates that moved like living things, covering them from neck to feet. Their blades extended from their wrists, longer and brighter. What did they want? Melody asked, though. She already suspected the answer. You, Laurel said simply. You and your knowledge. The ability to create stable breaches, Ivy explained. The power to move armies between dimensions. Melody felt the weight of centuries of family secrets pressing down on her. She realized now why she had always been drawn to dimensional physics, why the equations came so easily to her mind, why she never quite fit in with humans. Ember nudged her side. The dragon had become her constant companion, understanding her thoughts, sharing her feelings. Together they had practiced creating and closing small dimensional tiers. Ember could sense weaknesses in reality, could strengthen barriers with her energy. We have one advantage, Laurel said, watching the screens where red dots appeared, showing breaches forming miles away but getting closer. They do not know about Ember. Ivy continued. The last Guardian was believed destroyed. Melody stroked Ember's neck, feeling the warm scales beneath her fingers. The dragon had shown incredible intelligence, learning quickly, growing stronger each day. The twins believed Ember might be the last of her kind, a being engineered by ancient elves to control dimensional energy. We should not wait for them to come to us, Laurel suggested. We should meet them at the outer boundary force, them to fight on our terms. Ivy agreed. Melody nodded, feeling strangely calm despite the danger. The knowledge awakened in her mind, gave her confidence. She understood now what she needed to do. Ember sensed her resolve and spread her wings. The spines along her back glowed brighter. The twins led them up from the basement, through the house and out into the night. The Full moon cast silver light across the grounds. Melody could see the boundary now, a shimmer in the air surrounding the property like a dome. The twins had maintained it for centuries, hiding the manor from those who searched. Beyond the boundary, dark, figures moved. Things that looked almost human but wrong, too tall, too fluid in their movements. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light. Void Court scouts. Laurel identified them, her blade extending further. They test our defenses, Ivy explained, her own weapon glowing brighter. Ember growled low in her throat, her body growing warmer. The dragon had doubled in size again since morning, now standing as tall as a horse. Her wings stretched wide, casting shadows. In the moonlight, Melody felt the knowledge inside her mind unfolding. She raised her hands, feeling energy flow through her. Dawn came with uneasy quiet. The skies above Moonvale Manor turned colors that should not exist on Earth. Deep purples and blues swirled overhead. The attack had weakened the dimensional barriers. The worlds were bleeding into each other. Melody stood on the balcony of the master bedroom, watching the strange sky. Ember curled around her, now the size of a large horse. The dragon had continued growing through the night. Her scales shifted colors, matching the unusual sky. Her wings, when spread, could cover half the balcony. The scouts will have reported back to their masters, Laurel said, appearing beside Melody, her armor still in place, glinting in the strange light. The Void Court will send their hunters next, Ivy added, joining them, her silver blade extended from her wrist, pulsing with energy. Melody nodded, feeling both afraid and strangely calm. The knowledge awakened in her mind gave her understanding of what they faced. The Void Court, ancient enemies of her ancestors, beings who consumed dimensional energy, draining worlds dry before moving to the next. They had hunted her family for centuries. We need to prepare the Nexus room, Melody said. The dragon rumbled in agreement. The twins led them back through the house, down to the basement. The Nexus technology hummed with energy, responding to Melody's presence. Floating screens showed disturbances in reality around the property, tears forming and healing. Waves of energy flowing like tides. Melody placed her hands on the central crystal. Equations formed in her mind, mathematical formulas that described reality itself. She could see the structure of dimensions, the connections between worlds. I need to strengthen the manor defenses, she said, focusing on the crystal. It glowed brighter. Responding to her touch, Ember moved to stand beside her. The dragon placed her head against the crystal, adding her energy. The twins stood at different points around the room, their hands on smaller crystals, their energy joining the network. Melody felt the house changing around them, the walls hardening not just physically but dimensionally, becoming anchored across multiple realities. The windows shifting to look out on different worlds depending on the angle, the doors connecting to places that should be impossible. The house was becoming a fortress, a dimensional stronghold like it had been centuries ago when her ancestors first built it. How long do we have? Melody asked, looking at the screens showing the approaching disturbances. Hours. At most, Laurel answered, her face grim. They gather their forces at the edges of this reality. Ivy explained, pointing to dark spots on the displays. Melody studied the patterns. She could see what the Void Court planned. They would attack from multiple dimensions at once, trying to overwhelm the defenses. She needed to prepare something they would not expect. We need weapons, she said, turning to the twins. They nodded and touched panels on the wall. A section slid open, revealing a chamber filled with strange devices, things that looked both ancient and futuristic, weapons designed by elven scientists centuries ago. These belong to your ancestors, Laurel said, lifting a staff made of crystal and metal. It hummed with power in her hands. They left them for the day the Void Court returned, Ivy added, taking a set of silver rings that glowed when she put them on. Melody approached the chamber, feeling drawn to something at the back, a gauntlet made of material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. It called to her. She reached out, slipping it onto her right hand. It reshaped itself, fitting perfectly. Knowledge flowed into her mind, showing her how to use it. The gauntlet was a dimensional focus, a tool that allowed the wearer to manipulate reality with precision. She flexed her fingers. The gauntlet glowed with inner light. Ember growled softly, moving to a large chest in the corner. The dragon nosed it open. Inside lay a harness made of the same material as the gauntlet. It was sized for a dragon much larger than Ember, but as the dragon approached, it reshaped itself. Together, Melody and the twins fitted the harness on Ember. It covered her chest and back with thin plates that enhanced her natural armor. Crystal nodes positioned along her spine glowed when activated, connecting to Melody's gauntlet. "They are coming," Laurel suddenly said, looking at one of the screens, multiple breaches forming. Ivy confirmed. Melody felt them too. Tears in reality, opening around the property, the void court forces pushing through. She turned to the central console, activating the manor defenses. The house hummed as ancient systems came online. Barriers forming around the property, through the floating screens. Melody saw them. Dark figures pouring, through dimensional tiers. Their bodies wrong somehow. Too tall, too fluid. Their armor absorbing light. Their eyes glowing red. They carried weapons that leaked darkness. Void Knights. Laurel identified them. The elite warriors of the Void Court. They seek to drain this world. Ivy added, to feed their masters. Melody felt anger rise in her. This was her home. Her world. These creatures threatened everything she cared about. She would not let them take it. Ember sensed her resolve. The dragon roared. The sound, shaking the manor. "We need to face them," Melody said, her gauntlet glowing brighter. "I can close the breaches, but I need to be closer." The twins nodded, understanding. Laurel touched a panel, opening a door that led directly outside, bypassing the stairs. Their weapons extended, growing longer, sharper. Ember lowered herself, allowing Melody to climb onto her back. The harness connected to Melody's gauntlet, creating a link between them. Melody could feel Ember's strength flowing into her. The dragon's senses, becoming extensions of her own. They emerged from the manor into chaos. The sky had torn open, multiple breaches swirling overhead like black holes. Void Knights poured through, landing on the grounds, dark energy flowing from their weapons. The manor, barriers held them back but were weakening under the assault. Melody raised her gauntleted hand. Equations formed in her mind. She could see the structure of the breaches, the weak points. She sent energy through the gauntlet, focusing it. Ember added her power. The first breach collapsed with a sound like thunder. The Void Knight screamed in rage. The twins moved with impossible speed, their blades cutting through enemies that got too close, their armor deflecting the dark energy weapons. Laurel focused on protecting Melody's left flank while Ivy guarded her right. They moved in perfect coordination, never speaking, but always aware of each other. Ember spread her wings and leapt into the air, flying toward another breach. Melody held tight, focusing her power through the gauntlet. She reached out, grasping the equations that formed the tier. She twisted them, reshaping them. The breach shrank, collapsing in on itself, trapping several Void Knights as it closed. The remaining knights concentrated, their attacks on Melody and Ember, realizing the threat they posed. Dark energy beams shot toward them. The twins leapt impossibly high, intercepting the attacks, their blades absorbing the darkness. More breaches formed faster than Melody could close. The Void Court was pouring all its resources into this attack, determined to capture her and Ember, to take the Nexus technology, to gain access to all dimensions. A massive tear formed directly above the manor, larger than any before. From it emerged something that made even the twins hesitate. A being twice the size of the knights, its body constantly shifting form. Its armor seemed made of pure darkness, its eyes pools of red fire. The Void Lord. Laurel shouted, her voice tense with fear. "Guardian of the court gates." Ivy added, raising her blade defensively. The massive being looked directly at Melody, its gaze burning into her mind. She felt it trying to reach inside her thoughts, searching for the knowledge of dimensional architecture. Ember roared, breaking the mental attack. The dragon grew even larger, her scales hardening, her wings spreading wider. The void. Lord raised a hand. A weapon formed from darkness itself, a sword that seemed to cut through reality. The air screamed where it moved. The Lord swung the blade, opening new tiers with each strike. More knights poured through. Melody knew they could not win this way. There were too many. The Lord was too powerful. They needed a different approach. She reached into the knowledge, awakened in her mind, searching for an answer. The Nexus. She thought suddenly, we need to use the Nexus. She sent the thought to Ember and the twins. The dragon immediately understood, turning toward the manor. The twins covered their retreat, cutting down knights that blocked their path. The Void Lord sensed their plan. It roared a sound that shook the ground. It swung its blade, creating a tear directly in their path. Knights emerged, surrounding them. Ember breathed a stream of energy. Not fire, but pure dimensional force. The knights caught in it simply ceased to exist, erased from reality. The dragon pushed forward, wings beating powerfully. The twins moved ahead, clearing the way. They reached the manor doors just as the Void Lord landed behind them. The impact shook the building. The doors sealed as they entered, ancient defenses activating. The walls glowed with symbols Melody had never noticed before. Elven runes of protection. Back to the Nexus, Laurel urged, leading them through corridors that shifted and changed. The manor rearranging itself, protecting them. We cannot defeat the Lord in direct combat, Ivy explained as they ran. It is too powerful. Melody nodded, understanding. The knowledge in her mind showed her what they needed to do. They reached the Nexus room. The technology glowed brighter, responding to the danger. Melody slid from Ember's back, approaching the central console. The manor shuddered as the Void Lord attacked the outer walls. The defenses would not hold for long. Melody placed her gauntleted hand on the main crystal. Energy flowed between them. She could see all the dimensions connected to this point, all the paths her ancestors had created. 3 months passed since the battle with the Void Lord. Moonvale Manor had settled into its new reality. Anchored firmly in the Earth dimension, the Nexus room remained sealed. Melody and the twins agreed it was safer that way for now. Ember continued to thrive despite being cut off from dimensional energies. The dragon spent her days flying around the property, invisible to normal humans thanks to elven cloaking. Technology. Melody sat in the library, surrounded by ancient books the twins had revealed. The hidden collection texts written in elven languages that she could now read thanks to her awakened heritage. She was studying the history of the Void Court, trying to understand their origins, their motivations, their weaknesses. Laurel entered, carrying a tray of tea. She no longer wore her maid uniform, instead dressed in simple human clothes, though she kept the silver bracelet that transformed into her weapon. You've been reading for hours, Laurel said, placing the tray beside Melody. You should rest. Melody stretched, feeling the stiffness in her back. The knowledge of her ancestors sometimes made her forget her physical needs. She was still partly human after all. Where is Ivy? She asked, taking the cup of tea. It had a strange flavor, herbs from the garden that the twins grew with seeds from their homeland. Checking the perimeter with Ember, Laurel answered. They sensed something odd near the eastern boundary. Melody frowned. She had felt nothing, which meant whatever they sensed was subtle. The manor defenses showed no breaches, no dimensional activity. Since collapsing the Nexus, the property had been quiet. Too quiet, perhaps. Laurel sat across from her, looking at the books Melody had been studying. Have you found anything useful? She asked. Melody nodded, turning one of the oldest books toward Laurel. The pages showed diagrams of the Void Court hierarchy, their structure, their evolution. They were not always enemies. She explained. They were once like us, elves from the crystal dimension. But something changed. Them. Laurel looked troubled. That is not what our histories taught us, she said. Our people believed the Void Court were always dark beings, always hungry for energy. The pages in this book tell a different story, Melody continued. The Void beings were scientists once, exploring dimensions like my ancestors, but they found something in the spaces between, something that changed them, corrupted them, made them hunger for dimensional energy. Before Laurel could respond, the library doors burst open. Ivy rushed in her bracelet, already extended into her blade. Her face tense with worry. "They found a way," she said breathlessly. "They are coming." Melody stood instantly alert. Ember appeared at the window, her massive head peering in, her eyes swirling with colors. The dragon sent images to Melody's mind, showing what she and Ivy had discovered. A thinning in reality. Not a breach, but something else. How Melody demanded. "We collapsed all connections." "Not all," Ivy replied. "The Nexus controlled the major pathways, but there are natural thin spots in dimensions. Places where realities touch. They found one nearby." Laurel concluded, understanding immediately. Melody rushed to the window, looking where Ember indicated she focused, her senses enhanced by her elven heritage and her connection to the dragon. She could see it now. A shimmer in the air above the forest. A place where the barrier between worlds had naturally thinned over centuries. "It is not a breach yet," Ivy explained, "but they are pressing against it. Weakening it." "How long?" Melody asked, already calculating possibilities. "Days at most." Laurel answered, "Hours, if they bring their full strength." Melody thought quickly. They could not reactivate the Nexus. That would only give the Void Court what they wanted: access to all dimensions. They needed another solution. She looked at the gauntlet still on her right hand. It had never come off since the battle, becoming part of her. "We need to reinforce that boundary," she decided. "We cannot let them through." The twins nodded in agreement but looked concerned. "We lack the power," Laurel said. "Without the Nexus, our abilities are limited." Ember rumbled outside, sending thoughts to Melody. The dragon believed she could help. Her connection to dimensional energies remained strong even without the Nexus. She could channel power to strengthen the weak point, but there was a risk, Melody realized looking at her companion. Ember would need to expose herself directly to the void energies. It could harm her, perhaps even corrupt her. "There must be another way," Melody said, unwilling to risk Ember. The twins exchanged glances. Then Ivy spoke hesitantly. "There is one possibility," she said. "One your ancestors created for such an emergency." Laurel nodded, understanding. "The Heartstone," she confirmed. Melody looked between them, confused. "What Heartstone?" The twins led her to the master bedroom, to the fireplace that never seemed to need wood yet always burned. Laurel pressed a sequence of stones. Around the mantel, the entire fireplace slid aside, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, on a pedestal, sat a crystal unlike any Melody had seen before. It pulsed with inner light. Not regular, but like a heartbeat. Colors swirled within it. Patterns that seemed alive. "This is the Heartstone," Laurel explained. "The core of your ancestral power. Your family created it before fleeing their world." Ivy continued. "It contains pure dimensional energy. Uncorrupted, balanced." Melody approached the crystal, feeling its power. It called to her, recognizing her blood, her heritage. She reached out, her gauntleted hand hovering over the stone. "If I use this," she asked, "what happens?" "You can temporarily restore connections," Laurel said. "Enough to strengthen the boundary. Not enough to give the Void Court access," Ivy added. "It is calibrated to your family line. They cannot use it." Melody hesitated. The stone contained immense power. She could feel it. If misused, it could cause greater damage than the Void Court. But they had no choice. The boundary was weakening. They needed to act. She placed her hand on the Heartstone. Energy surged through her. Memories that were not her own filled her mind. She saw her ancestors creating this stone, pouring their knowledge, their power, their very essence into it. A safeguard against the darkest day. Ember sensed the connection. The dragon sent reassurance through their bond. She would help control the energy, guide it, stabilize it. Melody lifted the Heartstone from its pedestal. It contracted slightly, fitting perfectly in her palm. The gauntlet responded, glowing brighter, forming connections with the crystal. "I know what to do," she said. Her voice changed, somehow older, wiser, the knowledge of generations flowing through her. They moved quickly through the manor, gathering what they needed: ancient tools, elven technology, weapons that responded to Melody's touch. All designed for this purpose, protecting the boundaries between worlds. Night fell as they reached the forest edge, the weak point visible now even to normal eyes. A shimmering in the air like heat waves, but moving in patterns too regular, too deliberate. Something pushing from the other side. Ember landed beside them. The dragon now wore her full harness. Crystal, nodes glowing along her spine, wings partially extended, ready for battle. The twins stood on either side of Melody, their blades extended, glowing with silver light, their armor covering them from neck to feet, moving like liquid metal. Melody held the heartstone in her gauntleted hand. She could feel the void energies pressing against the boundary, the hunger, the darkness, the void. Court had brought their full strength, determined to break through. She raised the stone, focusing her mind on the barrier. She could see its structure now, the natural pattern that separated dimensions, the places where it had grown thin, worn down over centuries. She began to reinforce it, sending energy from the heartstone into the weakest points. The twins moved in synchronicity, around her, creating a protective circle, their blades cutting through the air, leaving trails of light. They spoke words in the ancient elven tongue, words of binding, words of strength. Ember added her power, a stream of pure energy flowing from her mouth into the barrier. The dragon connected to the heartstone through their bond, stabilizing the power, preventing it from growing wild. The boundary began to strengthen, glowing with renewed energy. The pressure from the other side increased. The void court sensed what they were doing. They pushed harder, dark tendrils reaching through, seeking weakness. Melody felt them searching for her, their hunger, their rage, their determination. She pushed back with the heartstone, its light growing brighter, its pulse matching her own heartbeat. She wove patterns in the air, mathematical formulas that reshaped reality. A crack appeared in the air directly in front of them, not a breach, but a window, a viewing portal between dimensions. Through it, Melody saw them, the void court assembled in force, the knights, the lords, and at their center something darker, larger. A presence that made even Ember growl in fear, the Void Queen. Laurel whispered, her blade faltering for a moment. The ruler of all courts, Ivy added. Her voice tense. The massive being on the other side looked directly at Melody. Through dimensions, through realities, their eyes met. Red fire meeting human green. The queen raised a hand, dark energy swirling around her fingers. She pointed. At the portal at Melody Mine, the queen mouthed, though no sound came through. Melody felt cold fear but stood her ground. She raised the heartstone higher, its light challenging the darkness. She would not surrender her world, her home, to this creature, this hunger. The queen gestured. Dark energy poured toward the portal. The boundary between worlds groaned under the assault. The twins cried out as the force pushed them back, their boots sliding through dirt, their blades raised defensively. Ember roared, a sound that shook the trees. The dragon moved to stand directly behind Melody, her massive. 1 year had passed since Melody Harrison discovered her true heritage. The manor had become a fortress, not just in physical form, but dimensionally anchored against void incursions. The heartstone remained with her, always now contained in a pendant around her neck, its energy flowing into her, strengthening her elven abilities. The gauntlet had become a permanent part of her, responding to her thoughts, expanding to cover her arm when needed, retracting to a simple bracelet when not. Ember had reached her full maturity. The dragon, now the size of a small house when fully extended, could shrink herself to the size of a large dog when inside the manor. Her control over dimensional energies had grown beyond anything the twins had seen before. In the ancient texts, the guardians were described as powerful, but Ember exceeded all records. The dragon had become something new, something evolved beyond her original design. The twins had changed as well, their service to the Harrison line transforming into true partnership. Their knowledge of elven warfare combined with Melody's scientific approach created new defenses, new weapons, new ways to fight the Void Court. Laurel specialized in direct combat, her blade techniques reaching legendary status. Ivy focused on stealth and detection, creating new sensors that could identify dimensional disturbances miles away. Melody sat in her study overlooking the gardens, the wall covered with maps showing the thin spots they had discovered and transformed. Over the year, they had found 17 natural weaknesses in the dimensional barrier around Earth, each one now converted to drain energy from the void rather than allow incursion. The Void Court had not surrendered. They attacked each site trying to reverse the flow, trying to break through, but each attempt only strengthened the converted boundaries. The Queen grew weaker. Her forces diminished. The tables had turned in a way no one had predicted. A soft knock at the door. Ivy entered carrying a strange device that looked like a compass but with multiple needles pointing in different directions. "We have detected something unusual," she said, placing the device on Melody's desk. The needles spun wildly, then all pointed in the same direction. Melody frowned, studying the readings. The instrument measured dimensional energy flows. This pattern was unlike anything they had seen before. Not a void incursion. Not a natural thin spot. Something else. Laurel joined them, her face concerned. Ember detected it too, she said. The dragon was circling the western boundary watching. "What is it?" Melody asked, touching the device with her gauntleted hand. The needles responded, glowing slightly. "Not void energy," Ivy said. "That much we know. It feels almost like home," Laurel finished, her voice quiet with wonder. Melody looked up sharply. Home, the elven homeworld. The crystal dimension long thought lost to the void. She reached for the heartstone, feeling its pulse quicken as if recognizing something. "We should investigate," Melody decided, standing. The twins nodded in agreement. Outside, Ember waited for them. The dragon lowered herself, allowing Melody to climb onto her back. The twins mounted behind her, their armor forming around them, their blades extended. The dragon spread her massive wings and leapt into the sky. Flying toward the western boundary from above, Melody could see it, a shimmer in the air, unlike the void incursions. This light was clear, crystal blue, the energy signature. Familiar somehow. Though she had never seen the elven homeworld, the Heartstone recognized it. The knowledge in her blood responded. Ember landed a safe distance from the disturbance. The dragon growled softly, uncertain. The twins dismounted, their faces showing a mixture of hope and suspicion. Their homeland had fallen to the void centuries ago. If this truly was a connection to the crystal dimension, what did it mean? Melody approached carefully, the heartstone pulsing faster against her skin. The gauntlet expanded, covering her entire arm, ready to channel energy. The shimmer grew brighter, responding to her presence to the heartstone. "It is a message portal," Laurel said, suddenly recognizing the pattern. Not a breach of communication. Only, Ivy confirmed. No physical transfer possible. Melody reached out her gauntleted hand, touching the shimmer. Energy flowed between them. Recognition. The portal expanded slightly, forming a window. A face appeared on the other side, an elf, tall, elegant, with features that resembled Melody's own. The eyes the same shade of green, the hair the same dark red. He wore armor of crystal and silver, a circlet on his brow, marking him as nobility, descendant of Harrison. The elf spoke, his voice clear despite the dimensional distance. "I am Thorn of the Crystal Court, guardian of the Eastern Spires." Melody felt the heartstone pulse in recognition. The knowledge in her blood told her this was family. Distant, removed by centuries and dimensions, but blood nonetheless. "I am Melody Harrison," she replied, the gauntlet glowing as she spoke. The elf smiled, a gesture so human yet not. "We have found you at last." The Watchers reported dimensional shifts, patterns we thought lost forever, the Harrison signature. The twins stepped forward, their faces showing shock. Their blades lowered but not retracted. "How did you survive?" Laurel asked. "The crystal dimension fell to the void. We believed you all lost," Ivy added. The elf Thorn looked at them, his eyes widening in recognition. Wardens, he breathed. House. Guardians, I thought your line extinct. We have protected the Harrison blood, as sworn, Laurel said formally. Through centuries and worlds, Ivy continued. Thorn bowed to them, a gesture of deep respect, then returned his attention to Melody, the crystal. Dimension did not fall completely, he explained. We retreated to the inner realms, collapsed the outer boundaries, sacrificed space to preserve our core. The void believes us consumed, but we endure. We rebuild. We fight. Melody felt hope rise within her. The elven homeworld survived. Her ancestors' people continued. The knowledge she carried was not the last remnant of a dead civilization. But how did you find us? She asked. The nexus was collapsed. The connections severed. Thorn smiled again. What you did with the void boundaries, the inversion. It created ripples across all dimensions. Energy flowing backward against the natural order. The signature was unmistakably Harrison. Only your bloodline understands the mathematics to accomplish such a feat. Ember moved forward, studying the elf through the portal. The dragon sent questions to Melody's mind, suspicion, caution. The Guardian had been created to protect against all dimensional threats, not just the void. We detected the Guardian as well, Thorn said, noticing Ember. She has grown beyond the original design, magnificent. The Heartstone pulsed, warming against Melody's skin. She felt no threat from this connection, only recognition. The stone knew this elf, knew the crystal dimension. Why contact us now? Melody asked. The twins moved closer to her, their protective instincts active despite their hope. Thorn became serious. The Void Queen has been weakened by your actions, but she prepares something desperate. The court mages have detected massive energy gathering, a final assault. Not just on your world, but on all resistant dimensions. She will sacrifice her lesser forces to break through. How long do we have? Melody asked, immediately thinking of defenses preparations, the next alignment of dimensions. Thorn replied, 3 days in your time. When the barriers naturally thin, the twins exchanged alarmed glances. We have felt the approaching alignment. Laurel confirmed, the thin spots will be vulnerable. Ivy added, even with our modifications. Thorn leaned closer to the portal. We cannot send physical aid. The boundaries remain too strong, but we can share knowledge. Strategy. The void has weaknesses. We have discovered over centuries of fighting. Melody nodded, grateful for any advantage they gathered. Around the portal, as Thorn explained, the void forces had a hierarchy, a structure that could be exploited. The queen drew power from her court. If the connection was severed, the queen would be weakened. Vulnerable, we have developed weapons that can disrupt their energy bonds. Thorn explained, sending diagrams through the portal, designs that appeared in the air before them. Melody studied them, her scientific mind understanding instantly. These were dimensional frequency disruptors, devices that could block the void court's internal communication. Their power structure. Can we build these in time? She asked the twins. Laurel studied the designs. We have most components, she confirmed. We would need to modify the Nexus crystals, Ivy added, looking troubled. The Nexus room had remained sealed for a year, unused, too dangerous to access. But now they might have no choice. Thorn watched them through the portal. I will maintain contact, he promised, sending what aid we can. For the first time in centuries, the crystal court and Earth stand together against the void. The portal began to flicker, the connection weakening, the distance between dimensions too great to maintain contact for long. Prepare, Thorn said, his image fading. When the alignment comes, the void will throw everything against your world. We will do what we can from our side. The portal closed, leaving them standing in the forest. Melody held the diagrams in her mind. The gauntlet had recorded them. The twins looked at each other, their faces showing determination and concern. We need to open the Nexus room, Melody said. The words heavy with consequence. It is dangerous, Laurel warned. The void will sense it immediately. They will know our location, our strength. Ivy added. Ember rumbled. Her agreement with the twins. The dragon had protected the sealed room for a year, understanding its importance. Melody touched the heartstone, feeling its steady pulse. The knowledge of her ancestors flowed through her. She saw possibilities, dangers, opportunities. We have no choice, she said finally. If the Void Queen is gathering her forces for a final assault, we need every